Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Now, today I'm coming to you with a heavy heart, with some really bad information. In fact, it's shocking information. So, if you're standing, please sit down. If you're drinking hot coffee, put it on the table. If you're driving, pull over. And for God's sakes, if you're holding a baby, put it down. Because I don't want you throwing the baby or dropping the baby when I deliver this very shocking news. Are you ready? Everybody set? Okay, brace yourself. The news is, it appears that Cheaper Than Dirt has been price gouging. I know, it's shocking. It's something that your brain can hardly actually contain it. It can't process it really. It's such a surprise. In all seriousness, what else is new? Most of us have known this for a very long time, that Cheaper Than Dirt is a scumbag company. Cheaper Than Dirt has been dead to me since 2013, when after the tragedy of December 2012, they immediately jacked up all their prices to 2 or 3 times what they were. They issued recall tags for stuff that they had already shipped at reasonable prices to bring it back, canceled the orders, and then tried to resell them at 3 times their value. Cheaper Than Dirt is a garbage company, period. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that's just capitalism. Yeah, I don't believe that. Capitalism has to be tempered with a degree of compassion, or else it's not just capitalism, it is extortion, basically. When companies control the goods and they know people are hurting and they decide, aha, now we can profit off this, that's not just base capitalism. That's profiteering. And there's a reason there's laws against profiteering, especially in times of trials and tribulations. So Cheaper Than Dirt to me is a garbage company. Now, a lot of people will say to me, well, why haven't you been saying Cheaper Than Dirt is a garbage company? We've never heard you say that. Well, I have said it, but I don't harp on it, because here's the thing. I don't like cancel culture. So I don't go out and say, this company needs to go away. This company needs to go away. If I'm going to complain about a company or a YouTube channel or anything, my goal is never to destroy that channel, destroy that company, or stop people from watching them or doing business with them. It's to make them do better, to maybe make them think about what they're doing and not do it in the future, or make amends for things they've done wrong. And with Cheaper Than Dirt, it became very clear very early that there was no making them change. They were the way they were. I wasn't going to be able to change them, so why criticize them? When people ask me directly, what do you think about Cheaper Than Dirt? I'm like, they're dead to me. They've been dead to me for many years. I would never buy a product from them. I would never encourage anyone else to buy a product from them. But like I said, since there's no hope for them to change, I really don't harp on it, because like I said, not going to get any positive outcome from it, and I don't like cancel culture. So today I wanted to talk about what's going on with them. It appears the Attorney General of Texas has decided that he is going to get involved in this, and he has said this is so obvious and so blatant that the state needs to get involved, and the state has ordered them basically to pay back nearly $500,000 in money that they have collected. And if you ask me, that's probably a drop in the bucket of what they've stolen from people. Or extorted from people who were desperate. Their prices are ridiculous. I mean, they would crank $1,000 items up to $3,000, $2,000 items up to $6,000. I've gotten emails from gun shops that said, Cheaper Than Dirt just charged me $1,000 over MSRP on an $800 item. That's the way they are. And the person's like, but I had to buy it because I had promised this customer this, and if I didn't get it for him, I was going to look like a bad business, blah, blah, blah. But they jacked the price up last minute. I actually had one person call me saying, I bought 3 items from them, hit select, put them in my cart, came back a few minutes later after browsing. The prices had more than doubled on the items from the time he selected them and put them in his cart to the time he checked out, which was about a half an hour, he said. Because they're going in and manually changing the numbers once things go into people's carts or when they're just on the web. So they are a scumbag company. I would not deal with Cheaper Than Dirt under any circumstances. I don't care if right now they had a Beretta 96 GSD or a Chiappa 30 DSX sitting there and they wanted $5 for each of them. I wouldn't buy it from Cheaper Than Dirt to save my life. So I just want to let everyone know that, sometimes karma is a bitch, because Cheaper Than Dirt is finally getting a little bit of a payback for the way they have treated the gun community. The Attorney General of Texas has said, you have been abusing the situation. You've been taking advantage of people that are in need, and we're not going to stand for it, and you're going to have to pay back, like I said, nearly $500,000. I think they should be probably paying back millions of dollars. If you actually could go back to the other times they've done this, after Sandy Hook, after the other shootings, just every time there's a tragedy, Cheaper Than Dirt is ready to exploit it as much as they possibly can. So I just want to let everyone know, like I said, I'm not engaging in cancel culture here, because I'm just reporting a story. The Attorney General, like I said, has accused Cheaper Than Dirt of price gouging, ordered them to return almost $500,000 in sales where they gouge people on prices. And I think that's actually justice. Justice being served. Like I said, sometimes karma is a bitch, and sometimes it's nice when you see it actually work itself out. All right, now that I've actually said that, I want to talk about something I touched on in that first topic, and that is price gouging. Is it price gouging to raise prices in times of great demand? Well, it's not necessarily price gouging. I've covered this before. If the price of a product goes up for the retailer and they raise their retail price based on how much their wholesale price went up, that's not price gouging. Also, I don't think it's price gouging if an individual, say I own a gun, and now this gun has gone out of production, or there's a shortage, or whatever, and people are desperate to get this gun, even if it's like a Glock 19 and people are paying $850 for it now on the internet, and I sell it for $850, that's not price gouging. That's meeting the market demand, because people are willing on the internet to pay $850 for it. And plus, I'm just one person with one gun. I'm not setting the market. I'm not controlling the market in any way. When you're dealing with big companies like Cheaper Than Dirt, they do these things to manipulate the market and control the flow. So what they'll do is they'll go over to distributors. Since they're a big company, they'll tie up a lot of their stock with orders saying, okay, I can't give you this now because it's already been tagged for Cheaper Than Dirt. They've got an option to buy it over the next week, so you can't get it for your small gun shop, etc. And then they jack their prices up while everyone else shows out of stock. And then however many they can sell, they buy and they drop ship to the customers. And that really damages other businesses, because they don't have that buying power. They don't have the ability to say, hey, you got 500 of these, we want all 500 of them, like Cheaper Than Dirt does. And Cheaper Than Dirt can buy on time and buy on other things that a lot of smaller companies can't do. So when they do this, they're actually manipulating the market to be more favorable to their price gouging. Because if you're searching everywhere for, let's say, a Glock 19X, and every store is out of them, every place you try, your local shops, online shops, everyone shows no stock, no stock, no stock. Even if they're listing it at like $600, but then you find it on Cheaper Than Dirt for $1,000 and it's in stock, you might be desperate enough to pay that. And you might think, well, that's what the market's demanding now because everyone else is out of stock, so there's such a demand for them. When really it's just manipulation. And then you see people panic on the internet, and these companies like Cheaper Than Dirt also will list guns on Gunbroker, like the Glock 19X, brand new in box, $1,200. And they don't care if it sells or not. They just want, when you go over to look at Gunbroker and other places, you're going to be like, well, look, the Glock 19Xs are listed at $1,200 now. That must be what they're worth. And that $1,000 from Cheaper Than Dirt, I guess, is a bargain. I better buy it or I'm never going to get a Glock 19 again. That's not capitalism. That's not free market. That's basically criminal behavior. So I don't like it when companies do that. And when they do that, I won't buy from them. It's up to you whether you choose to buy from them. If you need a Glock 19X so bad that you're willing to spend the extra money, what's your money? So I'm not hurt. You know, there's no hair off my back I think it's skin off my back, but I'd rather have the hair off my back. But there's no skin off my back if you spend your money on it. But I don't like seeing practices like this put into play by big companies because it really does damage the smaller companies, the mom and pop shops, the local gun shops. It really is damaging to them. and it is manipulative of the market. It is everything that's wrong with a free market. Capitalism has to serve the buyer, not the seller, or it doesn't work. The seller is supposed to be subservient to the buyer. The buyer is supposed to set what the market will allow for products, not the seller. The seller isn't supposed to maintain monopolies or corner products or anything like that. There's reasons, there's laws against that. A lot of people think that capitalism is just everything goes. No, there are rules to capitalism. There are laws governing capitalism. Like you can't buy up all the water in the country. No matter how rich you are, you can't say, I own all the water rights and everybody wants water, it's $1,000 a glass. No, you can't do that. There's laws against it. Just like there's laws against what they're doing, like what Cheaper Than Dirt and some other companies do in times of tragedy, like after Sandy Hook, etc. And I'm finally glad someone, the Attorney General of Texas, is actually doing something about it. So when you bitch and moan about price gouging, but then you also want to say, well, it's a capitalist market and it's free market and they can do what they want, you're wrong to do both because you can't hold both opinions. You can't be mad about price gouging and believe, well, it's totally free market. It's not a free market. The market is governed by rules, and the number one rule is that the market is set by the consumer. It shouldn't be manipulated. When you start jacking up prices, controlling inventory, creating false narratives on the internet about prices, that's a scheme. That's not capitalism. So I don't like it when companies do that, like I said. But like I said also, when you're an individual, I don't like when people say they're price gouging because they want $2,500 for their AR right now, and you can't buy ARs anywhere, and they're taking advantage. Well, that's an individual with one item. They're not manipulating the market. They're just saying, hey, if you want me to part with something that's this valuable to me, you're going to have to give me more than it's worth. And that's understandable. That's okay. If you don't want it, don't pay it. If you want it bad enough, pay it. I choose not to because almost every time something like this happens, 6 months later, you paid $2,000 for something that's now worth $800 again. And you'd be lucky if you can sell it for that even. You're probably going to take a knock off that because that's the retail price. So if something has a retail price of $800, you buy it at $2,000, and then you go to resell it 6 months later and the scare is over and the manipulation is done. Well, now you can't even get $800 because it's used. So you go get about $600. So that's up to you. You need to know those things when you're buying from individuals. But I want to kind of stress that point today. There's a couple points here I'm stressing. One, free market does not mean you can do whatever you want, take advantage of customers, manipulate the market, manipulate stocks, etc. That is not the free market. That is not capitalism. That is, like I said, that's some sort of scheme. Also, there's a difference between big companies and the influence they have in an individual selling one item. So don't get mad at people if they like something enough that they're like, I would only part with this if I got this much for it. Like someone right now, like I love my, let's say my Colt Python, my original edition Colt Python, and it's worth about $2,500 or more. And now I get more for it. But I wouldn't sell it for that. And I'm not saying that the Python's really worth more. I'm just using this as an example. Let's say it's worth $2,500. But to me, it's worth more than that. There's no way I'd part with it for $2,500 because I'd rather have it than the $2,500. But if someone came up to me and said, I'll give you 10 grand for it, I'd be like, okay. So there, that's what when it's an individual selling one item, it's what they will take to part with an item. That has nothing to do with the market. It's just how much they love the item, how much you're willing to give for it, and what they're willing to part with it for, like I said. So that's not as bad as big companies. So don't get so mad at people on the internet that are selling their guns at higher prices. They're just taking advantage of the situation and parting with things that you remember. They also will be without that item if they sell it. So if they have a $500 item that's selling for $1,000 now, well, if they sell it, they have to think, well, if I decide I want it back, I might have to pay even more than $1,000 later. So I'm going to get $1,000 for it. So keep in mind that difference between individual selling a couple of items and big companies manipulating the market. But the main point of this is no, capitalism does not allow for that type of behavior. It doesn't allow for monopolies, controlling inventory, manipulating value, etc. That's not a good thing. And when companies like Cheaper Than Dirt engage in that, to me, they're dead. I'll never buy from them again. All right, now I want to move on to my favorite part of the show, something a little lighter, Gun Talk. And today I want to answer a very specific question I got from a viewer. They said that they want to buy a 10 millimeter revolver because all their semi-autos are 10 millimeter. They are one of those people that likes to have one caliber, and they chose 10 millimeter as their caliber. So they said, what 10 millimeter revolver should they get? Well, I know a lot of people are going to think, well, I'm going to say the Smith & Wesson 610 because I love Smith & Wesson so much. Well, you're right. I do love Smith & Wesson very much. But the 610 is not my choice with a 10 millimeter revolver. Actually, I went with the Ruger, with the GP100. I really like the GP100 better when it comes to the 10 millimeter revolver, and I'll tell you why here. There's a couple of reasons. One, I like the sights better. It has a combat style rear sight, has a stock front fiber optic sight. I thought that was a really good addition to the gun. I liked the way the gun looks better. I just think it's a more attractive gun. The 610s, they just look a little nondescript. They look like every other Smith & Wesson. So when it came down to time for me to choose a 10 millimeter revolver, I went with the Ruger, especially since it handles recoil so well. It's just a good solid gun. The trigger is not quite as refined as the Smith & Wesson, but it's still a very good trigger. So when it comes down to choosing a 10 millimeter revolver, the 610 would be a great choice from Smith & Wesson, and I wouldn't tell anyone you made a bad choice if you bought that one. But overall, when you look at all the specs, you pull the trigger, you look at the gun, what I thought was better was the Ruger GP100. All right, as usual, I want to end the show with our viewer EDC, our carrier of the day. And today we have Joshua R. Now, it might be a little hard to see in this picture here, but Joshua R. is carrying his Beretta 92, which has been turned into a Resident Evil Samurai Edge inspired Beretta here, and he's carrying it outside waistband. Now, I can't really tell what position he's carrying it at here because he's dressed kind of emo, and that looks like there's a lot of guy there, so I can't really tell where exactly it is on his belt line. But I'm betting it's on his right-hand side because at first I was confused. I was like, oh my God, is this guy a lefty? Because it looked like it was on his left side. I'm like, I don't want to put a lefty on my show and pretend like I'm okay with that. Nature's little mistakes. But turns out I think this is a mirror image of him carrying. So I think it's on his right hip. And speaking of the mirror, one thing I do want to say, Windex, it's a thing. Look into it. But like I said, our concealed carrier of the day carrying his Beretta, my favorite semi-automatic gun, which he has turned into a Samurai Edge inspired Beretta, which I also love the Samurai Edges, so I'm all over this gun. This gun to me is an awesome choice for carry because it's like basically what I carry too sometimes. So I really like this. Oh, but I do want to say one bad thing about Joshua R. here. This guy had the nerve to send me a message the other day like, oh, I'm at a gun shop and they've got a Beretta 92 GSD in stock and you should go buy it, thinking that, oh, I'm just like some addict that just run off and buy things, which of course I did as soon as he told me it was there, and we had to go through a little rigmarole because he told me it's there. I called the shop. They're like, we don't have any gun like that. I call him back. I say, well, they say they don't have it. He goes over there. They have it. I call him back. I get it. I guess the guy that behind the counter didn't know what a Beretta 92 GSD is. But he cost me like a bunch of money. He cost me my entire gun budget this month. So he's lucky I'm showing him here. What with first me thinking he was left-handed and then him being an enabler, I almost didn't show him. But I did want to show people that something like a Beretta 92 is definitely an easily carryable gun. Like I said, it looks like he's a big boy and he carries it easily. But I'm kind of big too, so I can't really say anything, and I carry it easily. But a Beretta is something that can be carried even by small people. As long as you carry correctly and you wear the right cover garment, it can disappear. So today's EDC of the day, our viewer EDC of the day, our carrier is Joshua R. with his Samurai Edge inspired Beretta being carried outside waistband, I think, in what appears to be a Kydex holster. All right, everybody, there's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back tomorrow. Before we go, I want to remind everyone that this channel is 100% viewer funded. So if you want to become a supporter of this channel, go on over to patreon.com/The Yankee Marshal. Sign up, become a patron. We do not accept advertisements. We do not accept sponsorship. We do not get told by Leviathan Group what to shove down your throat. So if you want to become a patron, please go on over and do so. Also, I want to remind everybody, if you do want one of the patches, the silver patches, the gold patches, or the pins, or anything that are over there that are labeled for 2020, and all the things that are over there basically at all right now, those are going away at the end of December, so you have to become a patron in December if you want to get one. But with that being said, I want to sign off by saying, as usual, as far as the state of the world today is concerned, well, you know, it is what it is. But in the future, if we continue to keep a level ahead, do the things we need to do, don't panic, don't give in to the fear mongers, and fight for what we know is right, what things will be in the future is better.